Welcome to AWS Big Data Training. Uh, Big Data Training is all about the data manipulation or data analytics, basically. So nowadays, in companies, the generation of data, the size of data, and the requirement to to analyze the data is a big problem or a big challenge in a sense. So, and more companies are moving to cloud, whether it's AWS or whether it's Azure. But when they migrate their infrastructure, along with the infrastructure, they are migrating their data as well. So, if the data is on the cloud, then we need to have tools and techniques to manage that data in a systematic manner, because the data is coming from different sources nowadays. All this, mobile phones, IoT devices, data generating satellites, all many devices and many applications are generating data around the clock. And to manage that data, to keep the data, and to create the insights from the data is really challenging. So that's big challenge is called a big data challenge. And in this training, we are trying to give you some tools and techniques and try to explain you about the tools and techniques how we can manage that challenge of managing the big data. On big data, when it comes to the data can be a different type of data. So SQL data, non-SQL data, files, streaming data, batch data. There are many different types of data available. So in this training, in this AWS Big Data training, we will try to cover all those topics which are required for a data engineer or data architect while working on the AWS platform. So AWS is a diverse, very large, very integrated platform, which is a leader in the cloud arena with more than 200 plus services. So it's always better to start your AWS or your big data analytics journey from AWS big data side. So let's start. I mean, this is this kind of introduction I would like to give, and I'm sure many of us have a big, or I would say, the small or big understanding about the big data thing. Okay, so let's see the big data. What do you mean by big data, and why the big data suddenly is so much important? The reason is many devices. Every devices we want everywhere. The automation should be there, and the devices should be intelligent. And the reason for this, uh, the requirement is we want many things to get automated so that we can concentrate more on other innovative topics, other innovations, right? So if the device or any application is intelligent, means it is using its own brain, or it's use own its concepts, then definitely, in order to write those concepts or get those things done, you need to have a lot of coding required. And same thing we are doing in all our AI ML thing, artificial intelligence and machine learning devices, services. So these services, when they use the service, they they create the data, and our brain also creating data, but uh, we are not analyzing our own brain's data. But when these devices or these application worked with automation and um, with the data that generates the data, it's a small amount of data initially when you start, but over a period of time, as more and more services you are adding, the data is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So this concept, the data generation concept, is very unique thing in big data analytics. So we are spending more time on data ingestion. So with different sources are, you are getting the data from different sources, and you are getting ingested to your AWS environment. So that's something, we'll spend more time on that, and then we'll do the transformation part also. So there are three parts. One is the ingestion part, one is the transformation part, and one is a consumption part. You do the transformation. We don't want a raw data or just a couple of Excel files or some DB files. Or we don't want that. I mean, we want a proper insight of the data that will tell that okay, what happens and what we can do to get it better. So data is basically used for analytical purpose. It doesn't mean that only for analytical purpose we are using the data. Data is used for the downstream application also. Means what you consume, uh, and what after your consumption of data, you are keeping the data somewhere else. So data is a flowing. Nobody can consume it 100%. So when somebody has consumed the data, and they will ingest the data to your platform, and then you will consume the data, and then you will ingest it to the other platform. It's like that way. So here, in such way, have real-time data analytics, then non-real-time means near real-time kind of thing. Like for example, Twitter is a real-time. Your railway booking is kind of a real-time, but your the newspaper data, news feeding data is not a real-time. It's near real-time. You can say that every second, sometime 5 minutes, sometime 10 minutes. If it is an interval between that, that's not a real time. It's a near real time. And there is a batch data also, and there's a normal our database archive data which you want to keep in the data warehouse thing. So we'll cover you know all aspects of that data. So here, just as I discussed, the collection, storage, processing, analysis, visualization, data entry, and then we have some projects as well. So in this training, you will get a hands-on project. Mainly, this training is all about data, analytics, hands-on. 80% will be hands-on, and remaining 20% will be uh, the theoretical part or the explanation of those. Because explanation is very important. Without a proper explanation, you cannot do the labs. I mean, although the cloud interfaces are very self-explanatory. So but you need to understand where is what, because it's ocean. It's so many things in front of you, and then you'll get easily get confused, right? So which is the correct path? So these are the table of contents. Then we'll see what are the big data services. The first thing is a collection. As I said earlier, we have collection like real time, near real time, and batch process. So real time is your Kinesis, data stream, queue services, Internet of Things, Twitter. These are all the real time. We will see how any application is uh, putting the data or generating, or we can say generating the data real time, and then the same data is getting ingested to the Kinesis data stream. So Kinesis data stream from Amazon or from AWS, it's for the real time one. So on the other hand, we have near real time, which is not kind of a real time, but yeah, it's very close to that. So Kinesis data firehouse is there. That's a near real time things. That service will take the data from different sources which are not real time, and then will do the analysis, and then you will keep the data either in your data warehouse or wherever you want. I mean, wherever you want to consume the data. See, data consumption, always remember that data consumption is depend on the requirement. What type of data you want to consume is very important. So during this AWS analysis, AWS big data analysis, once you are done with the training, once you go to real world, you need to ask so many questions. When somebody is asking you, okay, yeah, we need to analyze data or data of our streaming data or our near real time data or your batch data. So there are many things, many couple of questions you need to ask to get the clarity about what kind of data they want to they want to consume. So every company has a different department. Different department required, their needs are different, and their consumption needs are also different. So many people want annual report, many people want monthly report, many people want to consume the data because their application needs that data. So data consumption, data collection, and data transformation, these are the three key areas where you need to ask so many questions, and we'll tell you what are the questions you need to ask. during our training. So this is the typical diagram where on the left hand side you can see. I mean, just this is just an introduction. We will get into more details when you go to the training. Application client. These are the source producers of the data, and then through AWS Kinesis data stream, this data is landing on the shard. Shards is nothing but like your um, the storage strips where this data get landed here, and then consumed by the different application. It looks simple, and it is simple, but some complexity is there. So we will see those complexities. What are those things? Once you get into the real world problem, you will have a lot of questions in that, and those questions we want, we would like to consider during our projects thing. Okay. Kinesis data stream capacity mode. Kinesis data stream is not for auto scaling. Um, But Kinesis data warehouse is auto scaling. So on demand provision mode. So provision mode means you need to provision just to think before you define your when a requirement comes, and before that you need to decide, okay, this is the requirement, and we assume that maybe we need to have 100 GB or 1 terabyte or 30 terabytes of data that are coming. So based on that you need to design that and define the capacity mode. We'll talk about that in detail. So Kinesis producer, we'll talk about the Kinesis producer. What are the different producers in Kinesis? In maybe the application, sometimes it's a device, sometimes it's a simple your um, streaming data. So those data that will come to Kinesis stream, and then you can use Apache Spark streaming or Kafka, message broker to use that. We'll have a detailed session on the Kafka, because Kafka in many ways is a leader nowadays for streaming data platform to analyze the streaming data. We'll talk about that as well. So Kinesis consumer, we have that this is some applications are also Kinesis consumer. So SDK, for example, SDK is generating the data as well as consuming the data. AWS Lambda is there. For sometime Firehouse is also consume the data, and then this is a real time data. By the time it comes to the Firehouse, it will be a near real time data, and then you do the analysis on your Firehouse data. We'll see that one. So this concept wise, if you see this concept, it looks very simple, and when you do the lab you will come to know what the criticality, or what are the dots, different dots which you need to connect. So those things we will discuss during our training. Then Kinesis data Pharaohs, as I said earlier, it's near real time. Kinesis data stream versus Pharaohs is a streaming, and this is the near real time one. Advantage point of view, it's a streaming. For streaming data, this is good. For near real time, Firehouse is good. The advantage with Firehouse is it is auto scaling one. Kinesis, we have some storage, because this you have a shard and those things, but here there's no data storage. But when you say these are the pros and cons, but these are defined for a certain purpose. I mean, we always remember the data stream has this the devices and services which is defined for data stream, these are defined for special purpose, and then a Firehouse is defined for special purpose. So they are different, different people, and that's why they are good on their field. So don't say that, okay, don't assume that the data stream and the Firehouse is good and data stream is bad, or vice versa. Then we'll see the storage plays very very important role. We have different type of storage, archive storage or streaming storage. The streaming data is coming, then we want to keep the data in the different classes to manage our cost. Basically, we don't want to keep unwanted unused data in our expensive storage. So this is our storage tiering, that comes with the word called storage tiering. We'll talk about those storage tiering, how this will help you in your managing your data in big data environment. The classes, the Amazon lifecycle, how the data travel from most expensive to the least expensive stage. That's a data lifecycle thing. We will talk about that. and then this the way application do two application communicate with each other, it's through event or through messages. So Amazon understand this concept, and they have variety of services available for communication in between the applications. So notification is one of them. Queue messaging services there. Then simple messaging services there. Then we have Kafka. We call it MSQ in Amazon. And these services will, you can use those services based on the requirement and based on the budget. So all the services doesn't have a single single chart or single pricing topology. So every service has a different role, the different pricing context. So we need to think about that, and we'll talk about those things. Object encryption, we'll talk about that. Then we'll see the what do you mean by NoSQL data. I'm sure many of us you are already aware that what do you mean by the non-SQL data. We'll talk detail about that, and what are the services in Amazon that is giving you the ability to write your code in on NoSQL data, like for example DynamoDB. And they are planning for one more NoSQL database in near future. But DynamoDB is a dominant player for a NoSQL database. So database NoSQL data is very fast and less overhead, and that's why many these companies and new devices, new mobile phones, they use all NoSQL data. So we'll talk about the DynamoDB, and we'll give you the introduction to MongoDB as well. And then we see the serverless architecture. The serverless architecture, mainly the Lambda function, to in application world, something in triggering mechanism is very important. And because of this automation thing, without triggering mechanism, you cannot automate the things. Means on for your robot also, something get triggered, then it will move yourself. I mean, move the triggering mechanism. So triggering mechanism is very important, and Lambda is a solution from AWS. We'll talk about that. Then we'll see the Glue catalog. Glue is basically the ETL tool from Amazon. You get the data, then you get the data from data firehouse, and then before it goes to the data warehouse thing, it's ETL tool. The Glue is a beautiful ETL tool that is very easy for a non-data engineers. Then we'll see the lake formation. How the lake? What do you mean by the AWS data lake? How do you form the lake, and what do you mean by data? Data mart. Then we'll see the EMR thing. EMR is Elastic MapReduce. It's basically this is the concept. It's a bit old nowadays, but still, as a data engineer, you need to understand what do you mean by Elastic MapReduce, how to manage the big data in a map reduced way. So we'll talk about that as well. Spark is a hot cake nowadays. Everyone wants to learn Spark. We'll spend some time on the Spark components, how Spark components will make your life easier. As a Spark streaming or Spark transformation thing, we'll talk about that. How Spark works, and along with that, Spark streaming with the Kinesis, how it works. So we'll have a lab for that, and along with that, we'll have introduction for supervised learning, SageMaker, deep learning, neural networks, data pipeline, these things, and Redshift. Then finally we'll end up with the Redshift thing, where you will understand what do you mean by data warehouse thing. So this is for the AWS Big Data training. And if you have any questions, you can reach me out, and we'll do the labs. And when you do the projects, you will all whatever your doubts will get clear. So this is Sukrit from Sathi Foundation. If you're interested, please get in touch with me for AWS Big Data training. Thank you and happy learning.